Today is the perfect day to write, so let's do just that. Turn off your phone, close the door, put on headphones, and get your notebooks out. Why? Because we are going to write. Hello there, writerly friends, and welcome back to the Virtual Writing Academy, where we learn by writing and by doing. This week I have a bit of a strange exercise. Max said, realizing that all of the exercises they ever give you are actually rather strange in nature, but don't worry about that. For those of you who are actually unfamiliar with this show and the way that I do things, allow me to explain to you the way this class is going to work. This Virtual Writing Academy is not like a lecture. I'm not going to tell you what you're supposed to know and you're going to take notes. No, that's not the way this is going to work. We're going to learn by writing and by doing. And by that I mean that I'm going to give you a writing exercise. Time is going to pass in the video. There's actual physical time, 10 minutes that pass in this video where you have to sit down and write. And once we're done, we come back and we talk about our experiences. And yes, of course, as always, there is a little bit of a lesson hidden behind today's exercise, but I will not tell you what it is until the end. Why? Again, because the best learning is done by doing. So, go grab your notebook or open up your writing software of choice. You can indeed minimize this video if you like to. I'll tell you when to bring it back up. In the meantime, let's talk about today's musical writing recommendations. As I've said countless times in the past, music is the most important part of my creative writing process. I use music whenever I'm writing, and I find that it gives me a little bit of an extra edge into getting right in the mood of things. And, that's why I like to always give you a musical recommendation. This time around, we're gonna be writing something sad. Yeah, that's right. There's probably no other way to spin this prompt or this exercise into anything else other than a slight bit of sadness and bitterness, so we're just going to entirely embrace that. What is today's first musical recommendation is one of my writing playlists, Sorrow. You know Sorrow, I know Sorrow. Sorrow is a really, really sad playlist that I wrote, and it deals more with the idea of healing as opposed to just utter despair. It's more about coming out of despair itself. Though, I must warn you, it is a little bit of a dark playlist. It has piano songs of versions that are already pretty sad, like Arms by Christina Perri. Wow, is that song sad. Anyways, you know the playlist. If you want to go check it out, you can find the link to it in the description below. I make writing playlists over at 8tracks.com/mkaren, so you can go find more over there. Yeah, you know Sorrow, I know Sorrow, let's move on. What is the big recommendation today? If you haven't already, I recommend you to please subscribe to OC Remix on YouTube. They are the YouTube channel for ocremix.org, which is a wonderful website where people make, or where people post the remixes of classic video game tracks. They always post the new songs on their YouTube channel the moment they go up on the website, and to me, in my opinion, it's like the best way to find out the new mixes that come out. And every time a new one comes out every few days or so, I'm like, oh yes, time to sit down and see if this is gonna join my musical repertoire. And a couple of days back, I think it was last week, they released a new mix, and at first I was like, a guitar version of the Zanarkand theme from Final Fantasy X. How good could this possibly be? And the answer to that is pretty darn good. This song, Guitar for Zanarkand by Lazerwolph, is an amazing song. The theme of Zanarkand is already pretty darn sad. It's a pretty darn sad song, and it has a sort of grand feeling of sadness. I actually commented on the video with my thoughts on the song and why I really like it so much. And making a guitar version of the song makes it seem so much more personal. And I'm not gonna lie to you, while I was coming up with this exercise, this was the song that I was listening to the entire time. You could say this song was the impetus for today's exercise. So if you want to give yourself a little extra challenge, go pick up this song. You will find two links in the description below. The first one is to listen to the song on repeat on your browser, so you can just go ahead and do that. Or even better, you can go ahead and download the song from ocremix.org and, start expanding your, musical writing repertoire. Now that I've said this in the past, but ocremix.org is a great website. If you haven't already, go check it out. They have even entire albums of remixes, and they're all free to download, made by great people who could totally, absolutely love and adore classical video game tracks. So you should totally go check it out. I absolutely recommend it. And if you don't right now, don't worry. I'm still gonna be recommending these tracks because I freaking love their music so much. Anyways, fangirling out of the way, go pick up your writing software, open up your notebook, get your music ready, close the door, turn off your phone, do all the things you need to do, and I'm gonna give you about a minute or so to get ready, okay? Feel free to pause the video, and at the count of 5, I'm going to assume that you have unpaused the video, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That almost sounded like the countdown for some sort of like arcade fighting game from the 90s. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Oh man, memories. As always, before we begin writing, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer and remind you that you're not only allowed, but encouraged to use your own characters and settings for today's exercise. Feel free to change whatever you need to do to make the writing work for you. So, you got your stuff ready, you know the rules, let's start! Today's exercise is called Memories Never Die. You will have 10 minutes to write from the point of view of a character as they arrive at the place they once called home. The catch? This character may not look it, but they are actually hundreds of years old. Double catch? The place they once called home has changed. Forever. Again, allow me to repeat myself, you're gonna have 10 whole minutes to write from the point of view of a character as they arrive at the place they once called home, the place where they found belonging at a time. And this character may not look it, but they're actually really incredibly old. And double catch, this place, the place they once called home, has changed. Forever. Today, I want you to enter the mind of a character who is incredibly old. The reason behind their inability to die is not important. You can touch on it, it's fine, but to me, the point of this exercise is to experience, from their point of view, the realization that something has changed forever. How do they react to this experience? How do they react to seeing the place they once called home entirely change? Forever. What does this change mean? Is it a change for the better or a change for the worse? Enter the mind of someone who has lived a lot, who has lived maybe too much, and who finds himself returning to the place where they once found belonging. Why? Were they going back there to seek to find that belonging again, or to seek to find the truth of the things they have heard? Has this place changed for the better or the worse? These are questions only you can answer, right, early friend. But I won't send you off on your own. As always, I'm going to give you the first line of this story so you don't have to worry about getting it right and any of those silly things. This story begins like this. Of all the places in this world, you are the only one I ever called home. Now go, right, early friend, seek to enter the mind of a character who is incredibly old, ancient, immortal, and yet seek to answer the question, what does it mean to live forever when the world you knew, the memories you held, will one day die? 60 seconds remaining. Alright, time's up, pencils down, fingers off the keyboard. If you minimize this video, please bring it back up, and let's all take a deep breath. So, what do you think of today's exercise? Was it fun? Did you enjoy it? I hope you did. I hope that if anything, it gave you another point of view. It forced you to enter the mind of someone you're not so used to. Why did I give you this exercise? I gave you this exercise because of two reasons. I recently got two questions that at first seemed to be entirely unrelated, and upon closer inspection I realized that they share more similarities than they appeared to. And one of the questions was, hey Max, do you have any tips for writing characters who are immortal? And I had some, though I didn't think they were so meaningful. And the other question was, hey Max, I'm relatively a young person, and I wanted to know tips for writing someone who was older, And as I was looking at these two questions, I realized that there was a point connecting them, a trait that they both share in common, when I was boiling down my advice for writing characters who were older, or just older in general. And I think it boils down to one particular element, one that is so incredibly universal that as soon as I put it to words, I think you will be able to completely understand it. How do you write someone who is old? Whether it is thousands of years old or just, a decade older than you. And the answer to that is incredibly simple. Change. There's a lot of particular sayings and things around the idea of change, and they primarily center on the idea that things don't ever really change, and that's not exactly true. I don't think it's true at all. The world is always changing, always going somewhere, always moving, and always advancing. And that is the nature not only of science and technology, but also culture. People may think, people are saying, oh, we don't have flying cars yet, have we actually moved forward in technology? And of course we have, but even more so than that, because that doesn't matter to me, culture is always changing. The culture from this point in time, 2015, hello people from the future, and the culture from a year ago, and a year before that, and a decade before that is entirely different, because the culture is always changing. And I think that most people, even those who are watching this video and may be in their teens, can realize that the world has changed from a decade before, from 5 years ago, from 20 years ago, and even now, as of the recording of this video, I'm in my mid-20s, and the world that I'm in now is way different than the world that I was in when I was a teenager. And as I was brainstorming ways to relay this information is the idea of change, and how does a character react to change, because the most terrifying thing, the most scary thing about growing old or, experiencing aging and the passing of time is that change is going to happen and you have no control over that. And the things that you relish and the things you cared about are gonna fade out, and at one point, and I don't want to say that memories die, but it's like at one point, the world you knew doesn't exist anymore. Hell, the world I knew when I was a teenager doesn't exist anymore. And is that a little bit scary? It kind of is, but it's really interesting to look at things like that, because I feel like everyone can relate to this. No matter how old you are, and even if you consider yourself to be really young, you can still look at the world and realize, yeah, there's always change. And it's really interesting considering, the place you grew up in, the country you grew up in, the times you grew up in, and the fact that even now, things are different, and things are changing, and things are growing. And that's a really long-winded way to get to my point, but I feel that no matter how old the character is, even if it's a character, who is, 20 years older than your protagonist, a really good way to get into their head is to look at the way that their lives have changed and how they have reacted to that change. And more so than that, I'm talking about the idea of like, what did this character cared about? What did they relish? What was the most important thing about them from their time? And now that time has passed, have they let go of this? Has this evolved? Or have they been forced to let go of it? And from this has sparked bitterness and anger. And I find that so very interesting and fun, and whether it is a character who's a little bit older than your protagonist or whatever, and characters who are incredibly old and ancient, that is actually, like, being entirely frank and honest with you, I don't care much for vampires except for the idea that they live on forever. And that very same concept is very intriguing for me because I love seeing characters change over time and how they react to change over time. But yes, I'm getting a little bit off subject because I'm talking about things that excite me. I don't want to say the point of this lesson because ultimately the point of this lesson is to get you to write. That's it. But aside from that, I wanted you to experience a character having to look into the face of change. And ultimately, I think it's kind of like looking into the face of life and death because you have to acknowledge that things are going to live and die. The world you knew in your youth will not be there, when you're an adult, and that's the way life is. It's kind of part of the entire cycle, and I wanted you to experience this from the point of view of somebody who is incredibly old and ancient, someone who may have even already experienced the cycle already. And it's weird because as much as I like to think that the human spirit can become incredibly hardened, I almost kind of feel that someone would still be heartbroken by that, It's like I've experienced the loss of 1,000 homes or places that I called home, and yet this next one still hurts me, Again, that's mostly me being entirely interested in the human nature and character development in general, but I wanted to toss this out there to put you in that situation because, as always, I find that the easiest way to understand somebody is to stand in their shoes. But yes, that's all I have to say. Ultimately, today's exercise was about change and how characters react to change. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that if anything, it gave you another point of view. And with that said, as always, please feel free to go down to the comments below and share your writing, your thoughts, your feedback, and your ideas for future episodes. Somebody asked me about characters who were immortal, and that in part triggered today's episode, so feel free to go ahead and leave, feedback, recommendations, and ideas down in the comments below. And of course, as always, if you don't know, I run a writing advice blog over at maxkieran.tumblr.com. If you would like more positivity, prompts, and advice, you can head over there. I post every day, so there's plenty of content there for you to go and check out. And as always, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll be seeing you soon. Mwah!